Welcome back to the EAM Crypto channel. My name is Enrique. Thanks so much for watching. All right, guys, let's talk about Aptos. What is going on? Is all this crazy price action justified? Should we open up a fresh long, a fresh short? Is this something to invest in long term? We're going to break all that down. First and foremost, I do want to state that I do not own any Aptos right now, and I don't have an open or long position, a short or long position right now at all. But I am watching this project very, very closely. I did reach out to Patrick, Dynamo DeFi, just a couple days ago, asking him, do you see anything as far as the fundamentals, because he watches the blockchain very closely, to justify this craziness? He said that in the last couple of weeks Aptos has grown a little bit as far as wallet addresses, but that's about it. So we're going to get a deep down dive into DeFi Llama, take a look at that as well, compare it to other chains, and then maybe take a look at the charts to really try to break this down and figure out what is going on with this crazy asset Aptos. All right, so before we break down the numbers and look at the charts, just real quick, as far as the history of Aptos, it was started by a few ex-Facebook developers that were first a part of a project named Libra. Libra was going to be a big thing. Governments and regulation went nuts over it. They didn't want Facebook, with all of its billions of users, having its own blockchain and its own currency. So they put all sorts of pressure on Libra from a regulatory perspective, and it basically really hurt the growth of the project. They then tried to rebrand the project into DM, and after that sunsetted, a couple of the developers from DM started Aptos. Now, Aptos started a raise, an initial raise of 200 million. And then the second raise was 150 million. In the first raise, you will see some names like 3AC, FTX, Alameda. And then on the second raise, Binance got into the game, which is very, very interesting. Now, what's even more interesting and kind of ridiculous is that when they raised $350 million and they still had not released a white paper. Yeah, that's right. They still had not released a white paper. Don't get it. Very weird. On top of that, the tokenomics are still murky. There were all sorts of murky when it launched and it was listed on all the different exchanges, and you could even trade it on leverage. They still hadn't released the tokenomics. They were murky as hell. They're still murky as hell. We know that the APT token, which is the token of this blockchain, this L1 blockchain, Aptos, which just what the world needs, right? Another blockchain. It's basically unlimited supply. So think about that. So that's going to put all sorts of sell pressure moving forward. And then on top of that, the tokenomics, the divestor kind of divesting schedules put a ton more pressure on it. Right now, the market cap is about 3 million, but the fully diluted market cap is almost 20 billion. I said million, I meant 3 billion, and the fully diluted market cap is 20 million. So just think about that. So the tokenomics on this kind of suck, and there's going to be all sorts of sell pressure on this asset. Now, why is it considered a Solana killer? Why are so many people excited about this? All right, so Solana is it's coded in Rust, and Aptos is based on, well, its programming language Move is based on Rust. So that makes it very easy for them to kind of pick at the Solana ecosystem and send some of those developers and projects to Aptos. And it's literally happening. I was a guest on a show. Crypto Mad was on that same show as well. And he stated that from some of the developers, Solana developers that he's been talking to, they've been getting hit on left and right by the Aptos Foundation to move from Aptos to Solana by rewarding them financially. So I thought that was very, very interesting. Now, as far as the Aptos Foundation, this is where it gets even more murky, more weird as well. Believe it or not, they are founded in the Cayman Islands, where Aptos is registered in the Cayman Islands and operating out of the Cayman Islands, where Aptos is operating out of the US. So that's also kind of weird, just a lot of murkiness with this project. All right, guys, so before we look at the chart, let's take a look at comparing Aptos to Solana and to Near. We're going to use CoinMarketCap and DeFi Llama to do this. So first things first, like I stated earlier, the market cap of Aptos is a little bit under 3 billion, and its fully diluted market cap, which again, this number has all sorts of murkiness to it, like we already covered, is $20 billion. $20 billion. This is ridiculous. This is clown world stuff. Now, looking at Solana, for example, its fully diluted market cap is 13 billion, which I still think is too high considering they lost their two biggest key players. But still, fully diluted market cap of 13 billion. And then looking at Near, its fully diluted market cap is 2.6 billion, which is very, very interesting, as we're going to see in a second. Because, well, I'll just dive into that. Near's TVL is 86.3 million. Now, looking at Aptos' TVL, if you look at its fully diluted market cap, you would have to assume it's higher than Solana's, which means it's probably around 300 million. Wrong. It's 59 million. So the total value locked, 59 million, despite the fact that its fully diluted market cap is at what, 9x? Near's fully diluted market cap, and they have more total value locked. They have a lot more going on as far as their ecosystem, and that is very, very odd. Don't get that at all. Makes zero sense to me. So looking again at TVL, we already talked about Tortuga, where you can do the liquid staking. I guess you can also do it here with Ditto, I guess it's pronounced. But there's just not a lot with this ecosystem, guys. I mean, if we look at the ones that have more than 1 million in TVL, it's only 6 projects. 6 projects. And its fully diluted market cap is 20 billion. This is nonsense, and I just don't get it. This is crazy to me. So just looking at that, comparing it to like, Near, comparing it to Solana, look at Solana, 283 million. And even though I think its fully diluted market cap is kind of nonsense too, and it was really nonsense when this was trading at $260 a token, at least this ecosystem is a bit more robust. If you look at projects that have over 1 million TVL, there's about 40 of them, so almost 3x what Aptos has. So Aptos, I mean, you can't justify any of this when you look at the metrics. None of it makes sense, and you can't justify any of it at all. Now, looking at the chart, well, I mean, this is just madness, right? So looking at this on the daily, this is something that it's really hard to apply TA to this asset because of the fact that it just basically, the charts will only go back to October when it got listed. And as you can see, it did dive down here to what, $3? And then it did go on this crazy move. Now, this started on December 29th. You guys have heard me talk about December 29th before, right? Because that is when Vitalik sent that funny little tweet. I guess now looking back at it, it's not so funny, especially for those like me that had short positions. Sent that tweet about Solana, and I don't know what it was about that tweet, but obviously it did a lot for Solana, but it did a lot for basically all the alts. So ever since, basically, if you look at, ever since the 29th, that's when Solana's chart just went nuts, and the same went for Aptos. But Aptos did something crazy and went from $3 all the way to earlier today to $20. So it did almost a 7x. Almost a 7x, where Solana went from 7 to I think 25, so it did more like almost a 4x. So Aptos has outperformed Solana quite a bit ever since that tweet that Vitalik sent about Solana that had nothing to do with Aptos, which is really funny, especially when you think about the fact that these two are kind of competing. Aptos is trying to be a Solana killer. It's trying to get market share from Solana, and somehow it's outperforming Solana ever since Vitalik was trying to help Solana out. None of this makes sense. It's all clowning games. And as far as leverage positions, the funding rate is negative. So most people are short on this asset right now, which can only produce probably another squeeze, right? So another short squeeze. So you got to be very careful with it. So as far as price action, where is this going to go? How high can it go? Unfortunately, no one really knows for sure. How are you going to apply TA to an asset that is less than 3 months old, that is right now under price discovery? This asset is in price discovery mode, and as the name states, price discovery. It's trying to discover how high it can go. No one knows how high this thing can get. Another short squeeze would make a lot of sense, actually. That funding rate keeps getting more and more negative, and there's just no way to know. Many people are going to probably think to themselves, I'm sure some guy on their Discord right now is typing, oh, it's going to do what Solana did. It's going to go to $260 a token. So the expectations are going to be ridiculous. But if you just do the math, if this thing were to, do another 10x, which would get it pretty close to that 260 number, then its fully diluted market cap would be 200 billion, which would be absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't see Aptos getting to a $200 billion market cap. That would make it higher than Ethereum, who's at 196 billion. But at its high point, having said that, at its high point, it was over 500 billion. So when it was at 5K. But as far as what I think will happen with Aptos, do I have any idea short term? No. Some kind of pullback will definitely have to happen because the metrics and the math don't add up. And the fact that the tokenomics are so bad, there's going to be so much sell pressure on this asset because of the fact that you're going to have the VCs dumping all their tokens on retail. And look, guys, you just got to be careful. Look, I was at Consensus here in Austin last summer. I met a few VCs, hung out with a few VCs, talked to them, and these guys, they just want to separate you from your money. They just want to take as much liquidity from these markets as they can so that they can, make as much money as possible. So you got to be really, really careful in these markets. And when you look at an asset like this, that's clearly a money grab, cash grab, VC cash grab, you just got to be very, very careful. Am I saying that Aptos can't get to $100 a token? No, I'm not. I guess it's possible. That would be a 5x, but again, that would put it at a fully diluted market cap of almost 100 billion, which would be half of what Ethereum is at right now almost. So keep all that in mind. I will look at shorting this at some point, but right now everything is just too bullish. Bitcoin is probably headed to about 25K, 25 to something like that at some point before it makes its next pullback and then looks for its next higher low. So yeah, I mean, maybe when BTC hits 25K ish, which I think is coming, maybe that would be the time to open up a short here, but who knows? We'll see what the market looks like. So thanks for watching. I hope this helps, and trade safe.